Episode 15! Give it up for Episode 15 of my series where I go over every character's journey through Soul Melter EX, Star Allies' True Arena. I cover the rules of the challenge and the patterns of each boss in the intro video to the series to speed these videos up. I would recommend watching that video first to make sure you're up to speed. Thank you to these cool people for commenting / talking about bombs. And an extra big shout out to the one and only original Poppy Bros Jr. for first suggesting bomb.
Golly.
The bomb ability wears its heart on its sleeve. It's all about throwing bombs and literally nothing else, which gives it a pretty simple moveset and playstyle. Is this ability the metaphorical bomb, or is it more of a dud?
Oh, brother.
Let's find out. Also, like and subscribe to give Bomb its old hat back. The new one is fine, but the fact that it doesn't have the Poppy Bros hat anymore is kinda sad. In the overview section, I'll go over the ability's moveset, attributes, and strengths and weaknesses. Bomb's regular quote-unquote attack, bomb prep, has you take out a bomb. You can move around and jump while holding a bomb, but can't fly. You need to press the attack button again to do the actual attack, bomb throw, which obviously has you throw the bomb. Taking out a bomb is practically instantaneous, and the only slow part of this process is the throwing part, so if you were theoretically able to hurt things with the bombs without having to throw them, bomb could be mind-meltingly powerful, but that's just crazy talk. The range and damage of the bombs are okay. Not awful, but not very impressive. You can change the angle of your throw using the control stick. While this does technically allow you to throw bombs further, in practice it's basically only good for throwing bombs upwards to hit floating bosses. The vertical reach of the bombs is notably limited, and throwing bombs in the air is extremely slow and awkward by virtue of it being a two-step process, so bomb is legendarily awful against any boss that floats at higher than, like, mid-screen. The activation hitbox of your bombs is also a bit too small to hit bosses that are floating in the background sometimes, most notably Francisco during her icicle attack. And considering that you don't have any attacks that don't involve bombs, that's a pretty bad problem to have. Bomb's dash attack, Bomb Bowl, lets me make my second Skyward Sword reference in 2 videos, because it has you roll a bomb like a bowling ball. You can spam this move by repeatedly pressing the attack button without having to redo a dash input every time, which is super appreciated because this move is easily Bomb's best. This dash attack doesn't give you any invincibility, for real this time, but the bombs do notably more damage than your regular thrown bombs. The range of the rolling bombs are solid, especially if you use it in the air, which have the bombs go almost across the whole screen. Spider tried and failed to be a trap setting ability with its super weak webs, but Bomb Bowl is an absolutely excellent trap setting move. If a bomb doesn't immediately hit something, it will eventually roll to a stop and stay there for a few seconds before blowing up, and it will still explode on contact with any bosses the whole time, so you can stockpile some bombs in advance for a massive burst of damage. Bomb Bowl is the heart and soul of Bomb's entire kit, and gives it a great projectile spamming game against bosses that like to stay grounded, most notably the Knights. Because of its angle, however, it is terrible against things in the air, so as if Bomb already didn't hate aerial bosses enough, it loses out on its best DPS option against them as well. Down attack, Bomb Set, has you drop a bomb straight downwards that will act like a Bomb Bowl bomb. It will wait on the ground and then explode either when it comes into contact with an enemy or after a few seconds pass. Bomb Set can also be used to set up traps, but it doesn't do as much damage as Bomb Bowl for some reason, so its main use is to attack bosses while above them. This is Bomb's best tool for dealing with high-up airborne bosses, but it's slow and clunky and kinda sad, so you don't really want to have to use it like that. It also gives you a bit of height when you use it, though not nearly enough to ascend forever like Spider's downwards web, so it can also be cheekily thrown out while jumping over a boss to tack on some more damage while getting a slightly higher jump. If you walk near a bomb that's sitting on the ground, you'll pick it up, and then can throw it, or roll it, or drop it, or whatever. The fact that you can do this is always a negative. If you placed a bomb somewhere, you probably wanted it there, and if you really do need another bomb, you could just take out another one, lightning quick. The only thing this feature accomplishes is making you accidentally have a bomb in your hand sometimes when you don't expect it, and because you can't infinitely jump while holding a bomb, this is probably just gonna disorient you and get you hurt. This is set up this way so that other teammates can pick up your bombs, so that they can do that one thing from the trailer and hold bluster bombs and float up, but in practice it's just a small additional annoyance you need to put up with. By pressing the attack button right next to a regular enemy, you'll perform Bomb Drop, which has you pop a bomb right onto their head. This forces them to just freak out in place until they explode, which is pretty funny, but as far as I can tell this move has no practical use. Even in a normal playthrough where there are normal enemies abound, having this weird pseudo-melee attack doesn't do anything for Bomb. And in the arena, where most bosses won't even give you the opportunity to show it off at all, forget about it. Finally, and most importantly of all, if you take out a bomb and wait long enough without throwing it, you will unleash self-destruct, where the bomb explodes in your hands. While testing, I intentionally waited a long time to try to make this happen, and it just didn't, so I assumed it wasn't a thing in this game, but no, it is. It just takes like 15 whole seconds or something, so it would pretty much never happen unless you really try to go out of your way to do it. This explosion doesn't hurt you, which is kinda lame if you ask me, because it definitely did in past games. Other than being the most disrespectful way to finish off a boss in the entire game, this is obviously not something you will ever actually use, especially not with how unbelievably long it takes. And one more super stupid, unimportant side note that I discovered while getting footage. Apparently, holding up, like the thing you do to get an element added to your ability, spawns a bomb, so you can throw a bomb without having to use bomb prep beforehand. It's way slower and way stupider, but it's funny, it's neat. So there's your Star Allies fact of the day, I guess. Bomb has great range and decent, but not record-breaking damage against grounded bosses. And then the positives stop. Bomb is really, really bad against floating bosses, with his effective range and damage per second suddenly turning embarrassing, and most notably of all, it lacks any form of invincibility or mobility option, meaning its defenses are straight up awful. You're also notably more liable to get chipped down over time, as you need to block more than your average ability. With its ability to set up traps in advance and complete lack of invincibility moves to rely on, Bomb is probably the most show-offy ability in the whole game, only to be used in the true arena by people who know boss patterns like the back of their hands. In this section, I will go over the abilities matchup versus each boss and give them a matchup chart. Wispy. Any ability without good defenses is going to struggle against Wispy's barrage of crap, but this won't be a problem as long as you can blitz him down with loads of damage. Bomb doesn't have loads of damage. It only has load of damage. One singular load. Bomb isn't exactly helpless here, but it's ill-equipped to deal with the outright madness going on all around it, so you're probably going to get bopped a few times unless you're a dodging god. Mini-Boss Gauntlet 1. Bomb may be kind of limited, but it's not so limited to where it thinks these goofballs are hard at all. Any boss that sticks to the ground is already vulnerable to your endless bomb bowl spam, and these guys being generally slow and non-threatening means you won't even break a sweat. Bonus points for being able to hit both bonkers at once with your splash damage. Goldon and Silvox. With your phenomenal ability to stockpile damage, Bomb is an exceptionally great matchup against Goldon and Silvox. Not that that means much. If Bomb just had a move as good as Bomb Bowl that could reliably hit floating bosses, maybe it would be good enough to justify its miserable defenses. Kracko. Oh man, I have not seen the ability take this long to kill Twin Kracko in a long time. If a boss is floating at about mid-screen, your somewhat good damage per second is basically halved. If they're floating any higher, it may as well run to zero.
Oh my goodness, this is awful!
Big Kracko is sorta better, as you can punish his swoops with a bunch of bomb bowls, but yeah, normally abilities with bad defenses have good offenses to back it up, and Bomb just kind of doesn't. Ouch. Mini-Boss Gauntlet 2. Chef Kawasaki is big and stays grounded enough to where he will easily eat some bombs. The Vividria fight can quickly get very cramped, so make sure to start pushing the guards away early, otherwise you'll get totally sandwiched with no hope of escape. Past the opening pincer attack, Vividria is frail and is surprisingly willing to go to ground level, so she also gets dash attacked all over.
I've fallen!
And then we get to those cursed bugs. I don't think I need to explain why this matchup is bad, but I will. You have no escape options, and the bugs are very big and fast. Yep, that about sums it up. Try to bomb them down as fast as possible before they bomb you. Power bomb, that is. Francisca. Things are getting really bad. Oftentimes I'll talk about how a matchup is bad and follow it up with, well, at least the boss is predictable, so it can't be that bad. Bomb somehow manages to subvert that by displaying unpredictable amounts of ineptitude. Francisca will sometimes descend to ground level during her attack pattern, and you can hit her with some dash attacks then. There, that's the one good thing I have to say about this fight. She both floats relatively high up the majority of the time, and is constantly switching sides, so your ability to hit her is just trash. The range of your grounded dash attack is only just a bit longer than the range of her dash attacks, so your best opportunity to get in damage is also your best opportunity to take an axe to the face. As I mentioned in the overview section, during her long-winded icicle attack in Phase 2, she's too far in the background for your bombs to hit her, and Bomb doesn't have any attacks that aren't bombs, so you're just totally screwed for like 10 to 15 seconds. You can still hit her if the bombs hit an icicle, because then they'll explode, but this is just a new level of sad. This starts Phase 2 with a massive, totally undeserved damage deficit that Bomb will have to work extra hard to offset. It's impressive how poorly this normally straightforward fight goes for Bomb. Yeesh. Flamberge. You might think that if Francisca went that poorly, all of the Mage Sisters would be horrific for Bomb, but no, somehow it really is just Francisca. Other than you getting slightly short-changed during the Flame Pillar attack, Flamberge is still easy in all the ways she normally is. It just goes to show that bosses standing still for long periods of time tends to make them way easier, unless they decide to just not be damageable during it. What is this, Triple Deluxe? Zan. Yeah, no, I wasn't kidding. It really was just Francisca. Zan is cooperative enough to just let herself get drowned in bombs at the start of both phases, and once her overly long attacks are done, she'll then descend the ground level for her next attack and thus be Bomb Bowl food. You do have to deal with her changing sides during her Thunder Drum attack without an invincibility move, but that's about it. Zan tries, she really does. Meta Knight. This guy loves running at you along the ground, which makes him very vulnerable to Bomb Bowl. Needless to say, that makes this a fantastic matchup for Bomb. Bomb is prone to getting overwhelmed when there's two knights on the field, so things will suddenly get much harder if you're playing fairly. If you don't feel like playing fairly, staying near the tippity top of the screen and dropping an occasional bomb will deal some chip damage while staying out of harm's way until the kill screen that is Rock Phase. Bomb Bowl is a really good move, it genuinely is. DDD. The little bit of height that Bomb Set gives you in the air means you can be a little stinker while jumping over DDD and just shove a bomb right into his mouth. DDD is pretty easy to hit overall, but this is matched by your non-existent defensive game and his non-stop pressure, making this a somewhat reasonable matchup that's decidedly lopsided in his favor. This means you're either going to have to be in your dodging A game, or that you're going to take a buttload of chip damage because of all your blocking. To approximately quote the angry video game nerd, "There's no tricks I know of, the only way to do it is to freaking do it."
You're a poopy head.
Highness. Compare the list of things that make Highness difficult, and compare them to the list of things that Bomb isn't very good at dealing with, and it won't surprise you to hear that this matchup sucks. Floating? Check. Constantly moving? Check. Big attacks that can be tricky to dodge?
Of course!
Ever since I learned that his Phase 2 swings just don't hit small grounded characters, that phase has gotten a lot easier, but you still aren't thrilled about the lingering hitboxes all over the place. Bomb is trapped in something of a death spiral, where you can't deal enough damage quickly enough to make him stop attacking, so he gets to keep attacking, so you can't deal enough damage. You get the picture. Your momentum is really bad. Highness is all but immune to Bomb Bowl except for during the circle phase, and that alone is enough to make Bomb throw a tantrum. Mage Sisters. The sisters are surprisingly susceptible to Bomb Bowl, mostly thanks to Flamberge's love of staying near the ground. Your decent range and splash damage make this fight pretty good for you, which is weird because they kind of float, but I won't question it. You do have to deal with the Ice Floor into Skewer attack with no invincibility, which is always horrifying, probably, definitely, the single scariest attack to dodge in the whole game, but this fight goes better than it has any right to. Morpho Knight. The range and power of Bomb Bowl serve you very well against Morpho Knight, making this matchup surprisingly pleasant, considering he's usually the hardest boss. Running away and spamming projectiles really takes a lot of his threat away, unlike DDD, who's so big and fast that you can never escape him. Don't let that lull you into a false sense of security, though. With his speed, huge hitboxes, and high damage, he will punish you severely for slipping up, and you have no invincibility-granting crutches to rely on. Can I, in good faith, say he's easier than Francisca? I think with all Bomb's quirks, the logic is sound, but it just feels wrong. Void Termina. The splash damage of the bombs will nullify any runes around you, allowing you to focus on spamming and dodging the blood drops. Hold up, press the attack button a bunch, and marvel at how easy that was. As a little added benefit, even though Bomb doesn't have any element in the traditional sense, it has a unique shot type in the 3D shooting segments, and any quote-unquote elemental shots deal a bit more damage, so Bomb gets a slightly easier and faster ship section. Void. This is probably about as bad as the Void matchup can get, which is still not all that bad, all things considered. You are remarkably bad at hitting him with his floatiness, constant movement, and screen-filling hitboxes, and, being Bomb, you have to dodge all of his stuff legitimately. I hope you're not tired of me saying this yet, but it's time for the patented Void legal disclaimer. Void is almost 100% predictable and has damage resistance that doesn't let up until a scripted point in the fight, where he then stands still for so long that he always dies there. Oh, yeah, and he doesn't deal that much damage to you with most of his attacks, because the game is taking it easy on you at this point. Void is kind of fake, so as a result, what should be on paper be a terrible matchup for Bomb is instead just a regular old glorified cutscene.
Come back when you're a little, richer.
At its best, Bomb only has adequate damage and range, and Bomb is very often not at its best. Star Allies is the game where you really don't want to be bad against floating bosses, because they make up like a third to a half of all the bosses in the game. Bomb asks a lot of you with its complete and utter lack of invincibility or movement options, forcing you to dodge skillfully the whole run, and it doesn't really give you that much in return. Unlike other low-tier suckers like Yo-Yo and Spider, Bomb does in fact have something resembling damage per second, and the ability to set up damage in advance can be situationally powerful, but the juice is just not worth the squeeze. Compare Bomb to Water, and the difference is stark. Water has projectiles with more range, it has loads of invincibility and mobility, and is excellent against floating bosses. Why does the projectile-only ability have worse range than the ability that also gets to have good melee attacks? Playing with Bomb will give you a relatively pure experience. No cheese, no cheating, assuming you don't have elements, just you, the boss, and your ability to dodge. This can be a cool and rewarding way to play the game, but it would be a whole lot more rewarding if you didn't happen to just suck against like 40% of the game's bosses. Unfortunately, Bomb is getting a D for doesn't do particularly well. At least it's helping flesh out the tier list more. Next up on the list, we have Dark Meta Knight. Sorry for the long gap between Dream Fronts, that's just how the list shook out. We've been dealing with too many fair, somewhat balanced characters lately. It's time to bring in some real dumb stuff. The order I will cover things is in a post linked in the description, but you can still request or just kind of talk about any of the remaining abilities of Dream Fronts, and I'll shout you out in the respective video. Like and subscribe for a lifetime supply of lamp oil, rope, and
Bombs?